She was ashamed of her father until she read his last letter. Lisa was only a little girl when her father became her whole world. Her father was a poor roadside mechanic. Every day, he worked with dirty hands, torn clothes, and a tired body just to put food on the table. But whenever he came home, Lisa would run towards him with a big smile. "Daddy." He would open his arms and say, "Come here, my little princess." Sometimes he bought her bread. Sometimes he bought her a little sweet. And on days when he had made no money at all, he came home with nothing but a smile. Lisa never cared about his dirty clothes. To her, he was the richest father in the whole world. One evening, there were barely enough food for one person. Lisa sat at the table and began eating. Her father sat opposite her, watching every bite with a loving smile. Suddenly, Lisa looked at him. "Daddy, haven't you eaten?" He smiled. "Yes, my princess, I already ate." But he was lying. He had given her his portion. After Lisa finished eating and walked away, her father slowly sat beside the empty plate. There was nothing left for him. He looked at the empty plate and smiled sadly. Because of him, his daughter's full stomach mattered more than his own hunger. As Lisa grew older, her father made one promise to himself. His daughter would have the education he never had. He counted every single note he earned from repairing cars, school fees, books, uniform, shoe. Everything came before himself. Sometimes after paying her fees, he had almost nothing left. But whenever Lisa thanked him, he smiled. "Just study hard, my princess." He never told her how much it cost him. He only wanted her to have a better life. While Lisa slept peacefully, her father was still awake. Under one small light in the mechanic shop, he continued working. His back hurt. His hands were sore. His eyes were heavy, but he kept going. He looked towards the room where Lisa was sleeping and whispered, "One day, my lovely daughter will have everything I couldn't give her." He walked through the night, not because he loved money, but because he loved his daughter. Years later, the day finally came. Lisa was leaving for university. Her father looked at her with tears in his eyes. He was poor, but at that moment, his heart was full. He watched his daughter carry her luggage and walk towards a future he had sacrificed everything to build. "Make me proud, my princess." Lisa smiled. "I will, Daddy." He watched her leave and quietly thanked God. He believed his sacrifice had finally been worth it. But at university, everything began to change. Lisa met new friends. They wear expensive clothes. They carried designers' handbags. Their parents arrived in beautiful cars. Lisa began comparing her life to theirs. For the first time, she started noticing her father's old clothes, his worn shoes, his rough hands, his small mechanic shop, and by little, she became ashamed of where she came from. The same thing she once loved about her father now embarrassed her. One day, the university held Parents' Day. Lisa's father came straight from work. His clothes were dirty with grease. His hands were covered in oil. But he came with a smile and a small gift for his princess. He stood proudly at the gate waiting for Lisa. When Lisa saw him, she froze. Her friends were standing beside her. One of them asked, "Lisa, Is that your father? Lisa looked at him. Her father. She smiled at her, waiting, hoping she would run into his arms. But Lisa looked away. She pretended she didn't know him. Her father stood there for several moments. Then the smile disappeared from his face. He quietly turned around and walked away. That evening, Lisa confronted him. Daddy, please don't come to my school dressed like that again. Her father looked down at his clothes. Oh, Lisa continued. People were laughing at me. For a moment, he said nothing. The man who had gone hungry for her, the man who had walked through countless nights, the man who had paid for her education, was standing there feeling like he wasn't good enough for his own daughter. But he didn't shout. He didn't blame her. He simply said, I am sorry, my princess. Then he turned away and quietly wiped a tear from his eyes. Years passed. Lisa graduated. She got a good job. Her life changed. She had beautiful clothes, a nice home, a good car. People respect her. She had finally achieved the life her father dreamed about. But there was one thing she slowly lost: her connection with him. She stopped visiting. She stopped calling. Sometimes weeks passed without speaking to him. Her father never complained. He simply sat in his small house, looking at her old photograph and telling everyone who asked, my daughter is doing well. He was still proud of her, even when she had stopped being proud of him. One Christmas day, Lisa finally decided to visit her father. When she arrived, the house was quite strangely quiet. Daddy, no answer. She walked from room to room. Nothing. Then she saw an envelope on the table. Her name was written on it. To my little Lisa. To my little princess Lisa. Her hands began to tremble. She slowly opened it. Inside was a letter from her father. As she began reading, her eyes filled with tears. The letter said, Dear Lisa, if you are reading this, then I am probably no longer here. Please don't cry. I was never angry with you. I know there were times you were ashamed of me. I knew you didn't want your friends to see my dirty clothes, but I never hated you for it. Do you remember when you were little and asked why my hands were always dirty? I told you I work with machines, but now I want you to know the truth. These dirty hands pay your school fees. These tired eyes stay awake so you could sleep. Those empty plates, I kept it so that you remembered you ate why I have to go hungry because of you. Every old shirt I wore was money I saved for your future. Every sacrifice I made because you were my dream. Lisa stopped reading. She began crying. Then she found an old box. Inside were her childhood photograph, her school certificate, her graduation picture, and a photograph from Parents' Day. Her father had kept the very picture from the day she was ashamed of him. She pressed the photograph against her chest, and suddenly she remembered everything. The little girl who used to run into his arm, the father who went hungry for her, the father who walked through the night, the father who never complained, the father who believed in her before everyone did. Lisa finally understood. The man she had been ashamed of to stand beside was the man who has spent his entire life standing behind her. Lisa found his old mechanic clothes hanging behind the door. She picked them up. They still smelled like the workshop. She held them tightly against her chest and she broke down. Daddy, her voice trembled. I am sorry. I should have hugged you. I should have introduced you proudly. I should have told everyone that you are my father, but I was ashamed of the wrong thing. She looked at his photograph. I thought your dirty clothes made you small. but those clothes were proof of how much you loved me. She fell on the floor crying, uncontrollable. But there was no answer, no familiar voice saying, "It's okay, my princess." No footstep, no smile, no embrace, only silence. And that was when Lisa learned the most painful lesson of her life. Sometimes we don't realize the value of someone's sacrifice until there is no time left to thank them. So please, never be ashamed of person who struggle so you could have a better life. Never hide the person who went without so you could have more. Never be too busy to call. Never be too proud to say thank you. Because one day, the person you keep saying "I will visit tomorrow" may not have another tomorrow. Love people while they are still here. And if you still have someone who loves you, sacrificed for you, or stood by you when nobody else did, please don't wait until they are gone before you realize their worth. Love people while they are still here.